to kind of fill in the technical piece.
Cool.
And then we just have, projects over the years that connect with the Children's Hospital. And then that's where we're trying to add this piece as well.
Yeah, very cool. Definitely something we can learn from as we move into engineering. So we just started our first class to head towards an undergrad major here. So we're a very small R1 research engine plugged into a liberal arts college, but we're only like 3,000 undergrads, 2,500 grads at the institution. We're like around 6,000 students total. But one of the weird things at Brandeis is it's very hard to tell if someone is an undergrad or a grad student or a young faculty. That whole spectrum, like there's sort of too much work. And so we do have a lot of undergrads doing stuff that looks more like graduate research.
That's awesome.
And we're really interested in applying these like engineering spaces. We looked at like big problems and we want to somehow like apply engineering tools to repair the world and solve big problems as a theme through our major as we build it. And this intro to design methods course that is like our intro course is really it's a CAD and CAM course wrapped in design thinking around we're starting with open source assistive hardware, mainly because my team knew how to do that already. But in the future, we'd love to turn it into water systems or refugee crisis or other interesting things as more faculty join the program. So it definitely sounds like we could learn a little bit about the future of like how that works at scale from your environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I also teach our intro to engineering course, which sounds very similar to what you're talking about. And we all have different projects. I do for my intro to engineering class, we do a final project on a automated food dispenser for animals at the zoos.
Cool.
So a little Arduino, a little 3D printing, laser cutting piece. But all of us, we have a bunch of faculty that teach. We all have something slightly different as a final project based off our own interests and things that we think are feasible for the students. So it makes sense why you have the prosthetics one, which I think is a great one.
That's super cool, though. I would like that it has to really map to the interests of the people running the programs. And I do think like my interest for e-NABLE originally was open source hardware. Like
Yeah.
people get how open source software works, but how can hardware be free? And then how design logic is really the magic. And it's such like an inspiring project. I also think like the recipients get a lot once you get there and start matching them, but I think the makers get almost as much. It's like from an empowerment standard and like changing career trajectories. Like you don't have to choose between making the world a better place and making money. You can have a career where you both make money and make the world a better place. If we can teach young engineers that, like, hopefully that can turn into a better world for everyone. And then I guess the other question is institutionally. So you said you use a printing service. Like, and is that a central service or is that for this program, this Epic program in particular? Like, where does the fabrication tool sit in the institution?
Yeah, so it sits within our engineering department.
And do you also have other maker spaces on campus that have access to similar tools on other departments?
Yes, we have a general one for all students. And then we have an engineering specific one, which is 3D printers and laser cutters. And then we have kind of our intro to engineering classroom slash, which is where we use our epics classes, which is like hand tools, some
Yeah.
simple power tool type things that are open hours. And
Nice.
then,
So you have an active learning space that people can just come in and grab tools.
yeah, exactly.
That's
And
I'd
we
love to see
much,
pictures of it.
yeah, I can definitely send you some photos. And then we do have a separate makerspace that's at one of our other campuses, not too far away. So there's a free shuttle service that has more of the stuff. Where our campus is located, we're kind of like buildings are tough. So we're at a point where we need a new building to add a much larger makerspace that's some of these other universities have that are massive. We're not quite there. So we're a lot of siloed areas where students will work.
Christopher, does that sound like Drexel or do you have a different setup?
So we kind of have a different setup since this club was started by graduate students who were in these post-bac programs. It's currently housed under our health sciences division,
Mhm.
although we do have a makerspace specifically for Drexel engineering students. And we have the Excite Center, which is kind of like a community space where we get both Drexel students as well as Penn students
Ah,
kind of
yeah.
interacting. It's just a huge space where all
I love
sorts
the
of
mixing
different
pot.
projects. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. But those printers can be accessed by anybody, so we keep ours a bit separate just so
Totally.
we can keep track
Keep
of,
uptime. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we have this thing balancing between wanting people to make as much as possible and have access to it with wanting to keep the resource standing tall and working for the next person. I wonder, do either of you guys do a chargeback model at your institutions? We try to keep everything free, but we ask for an academic justification, which is teaching, learning, research, or entrepreneurship. Basically, don't tell us you're making tchotchkes for grandma. Tell us you're experimenting with materials and speeds. But we do that because we have to pitch for resources. We want everyone using our resources to pitch. And then we do a little bit of metric tracking, but mostly it's telling stories. So most of our like impact report isn't quantitative, it's qualitative about how someone changed their perspective and added a major or did a big project we can talk about.
So here at Drexel, for the engineering specific makerspace, that's funded through the university. Uh, Excite is kind of bring your own supplies.
Okay,
And
yeah,
for,
BYO supplies, cool.
yeah, and for us, we fund it through our fundraising events. So we use the tchotchkes, sell those, and then use that to buy
Yeah,
more printing stuff,
cool.
which has worked.
Yep.
And then yeah, we're the same. Any classroom projects or research projects are free, and then personal
Yep.
projects they have to bring in their own spool.
Yep.
However, I always tell my students, I'm like, if it's building your skills to help your project, maybe it is a fun thing, then it's fine. I
Right, a
like
flexible
your
edge on
explanation
that.
better.
I could show you a little bit about our ecosystem here. Oh, I would need Sarah to make me host again so I could show a picture. But I've been here
One
for
second.
12 years building our maker spaces. So we founded our first, we opened the doors to our first space in June 2014. We're coming up on our 10-year anniversary. And a lot of this has been trying to remain departmentally neutral. So we sit in the library, we're a central resource for any part of campus. So we never know what type of projects are coming through. And there's a mechanism at Brandeis where there's a ton of student clubs that have a lot of funding and agency. So that the prosthesis group for e-NABLE came from a student organization run by students. And that student founder has gone on to go into the prosthetics field, in the medical field. So she went to grad school and is now a prosthetics as her day job. And so she was really the driving force organizing other students, but they would collaborate with our 3D printing club. So we have a big thing where there's not necessarily like a technician that'll work for you. You can book time with a machine and time with a human to work with you with the machine, but it's up to you to show up and run the stuff. So that prosthesis group partnered with the 3D printing group, where the 3D printing group would do most of their fabrication, and then the prosthesis group would do a lot of the design, but also the post-processing and assembly and the matching, and really like work with the client and make the product useful from those components that the other groups helped with. And now they're restarting that, and we're hopeful that they don't need as much printing support because the tools have changed so much. Like they can sort of get their Prusa slicer stuff set up with materials that make sense and go from there. Here, I could show a couple pictures of what this looks like. So, so my group is called Brandeis Design and Innovation, and it's now 5 spaces. So we have a maker space that's about 500 square feet. In the library, it's above our Starbucks, so it gets like the most foot traffic. We have an automation lab for electronics prototyping. If you're going to make a physical prototype in the maker lab, the automation lab is for electronics. Our digital scholarship lab is for it's a tidier space with high performance computers, so people can do more design work. And now we also have a printer farm that's new. That's about 50 FDM machines and a couple powder-based machines. And then we have this new engineering classroom. And the new engineering classroom is a bunch of hardware that we just put together. It's our first active learning classroom that can be like booked by the registrar with tools to use in class. And then we have a huge amount of custom hardware in our central makerspace. And a lot of these are like a research group or a project will take that machine and like use that machine for the semester. almost like a studio kind of model. But I'd love to talk to other schools about what hardware they're using and settings and materials, and would definitely love to connect and geek out about how to get the most performance out of some of these design tools.
You have a lot of fun toys.
It's too much, honestly. Like it's
I'm
so
jealous.
we created this hardware debt problem. So now we're working on standardizing. So our big push is like we can do anything for anyone, but not everything for everyone. And we want to widen that funnel, like lower floor, higher ceiling for all of our tools. So a lot of that is like standardizing what's public to get more uptime so that when someone walks up, like Christopher was saying, we can share it and be like confident it's going to stay useful. And also we've attached one staff per room. So my team is a group of staff that each run one of those rooms, and then can really like specialize in like the booking. And I don't think we've ever said no to a project, but it's a lot of like yes when, or like a saying I really like is like saying yes, no to the project, yes to the person. You know, like we really are happy that you came here. We maybe can't hit this timeline because we didn't know early enough, but let's find a way to get what you need in that project. And first one's free for basically all of campus. So like almost any group can come and make stuff. But if you're going to make 100 of something, let's figure out a way to fund that from your department, or we'll help you write a grant or something like that. And that's what I'm really interested in doing with e-NABLE, that I should show all of you, is getting some Lumio proposals out. So have you heard of the e-NABLE Lumio dashboard? I should send this to all of you. So it's in the chat there. And so this is a way that anyone in the e-NABLE community can submit a proposal to get funding. And there's a new group of funding coming up that anyone could propose ideas, and then you can click on them and you can vote about whether e-NABLE should fund that idea. So this is like a lightweight grant application for your institution to engage in something useful for the e-NABLE community. And so this one was about, this was renewing a contract with some medical professionals. Adam Jennings is an amazing doctor who works with them. There's another one here that recently came up about an e-NABLE space on printables. So getting some funding for Eric Bubar and his team to build out the space on printables.com with more e-NABLE work. I'm definitely looking for some students to help us with that NIH 3D print exchange and ranking and sorting the designs in there. And part of that is like metadata schema design. Like when we sort for a design, what search terms do we use and how would we group and cluster them? And with this is like the design thinking stage about like how much organic open source evolution has happened and what's that family tree like? And then what's the stuff that's well documented that's ready to use? And I think at our strategic meeting last week, we were talking about Eric's initiative to do printables.com having the curated stuff that has the best documentation, the most fully out there. And then the NIH's stuff being like everything, but sort of also ranked so that it floats the good stuff to the top. And we'd love to expand that beyond just prostheses to open source assistive hardware. Last link for everyone. Makers Making Change, if you know this group, is amazing. I'll put their link in. I think e-NABLE is like the hook into open source assistive hardware, and there's lots of good work we can do in prostheses. But the Illinois Assistive Technology Program is a great place. Makers Making Change is a great place where they have like so many other type of open source assistive hardware. And this is really what we want to do is e-NABLE is a great, powerful way in and a difficult way to navigate and find truly useful things for people. And I think that we can do, like, we were doing like maybe a couple a year that were like actually working with clients all the way on the student side. But if that gets students to think about open source assistive technology and how these rapid prototyping tools can really unlock enabling more people with different types of physiological issues that printing can help with, I think that would be a super cool way to aggregate more of these resources and make them more accessible. And then down the road, get coursework built around it. Like to actually, it's so cool that you actually have integration into coursework for like real meaningful projects.
This is amazing.
And hopefully this can be like the start of a longer conversation about like, there's definitely courseware we'd love to share, uh, and lessons about what works and what doesn't. And I would be happy to geek out over email with anyone over technical stuff. There's one other resource that's tangential that I could share a link for here. So that's like sort of the
Really
bridge
cool
to.
devices in here.
Oh yeah, some really cool stuff in
There's one
making
that I
too.
would use, the blister pack opener for getting those Tylenols and things out. They're hard for people that with challenges.
So
So
I learned about this stuff from uh, the other leaders in e-NABLE, like John Scholl, I think, showed me this site to begin with. And here's another one. This is another like initiative that does it right, the Illinois Assistive Technology Program. They've got all these different devices. Yeah, I clustered around like different uses. So e-NABLE was the way into seeing a way to change the world that has been very powerful for us to think about.
So for those projects, do they find people to come, ask user need questions and needs assessments? Is that how they
Yeah.
start, I guess? Okay.
Yeah, so in our engineering class, that's how we do that. Like it is based on like defining a customer. I also teach in our entrepreneurship program. So I really do like design thinking, lean startup methodology around product development. And this was a way to just be more CAD and CAM focused, but with the same idea of like pain point value prop MVP or like empathy research, developing a feedback loop, bias towards action, design doing.
Yep. Okay. Yep. I'm on the same page with you there.
Yeah, I think I would love to hear more about how your lessons work.
Yeah, we have a once a week lecture. It's 50 minutes. There's a bunch of us that all kind of integrate and stuff, entrepreneurship classes and things. But yeah, we do teach about interviewing. So all of our projects have a real person. So that's a key component and requirement for the program. Because we, want them to learn how to interview, interact with the people actually having the problem, understand the empathy and the social context. So we're building things that have that user feedback to make sure people actually use it.
That's so cool. No, and I think that's really important. Like starts with the problem, starts with empathy for the problem. And I agree, like interviewing real people is so much more powerful. We do a lot of survey design and focus groups, but I'd love to do more interview protocols. I think those one-on-ones can be seeing how someone uses or misuses your prototype can be really powerful.
Yeah, we talk about that too.
There's also there's a school, there's a K through 12 program that I forget that we got to find and get you a link for that integrates this in a year-long course. And they're one of the only groups I've seen in higher ed where they work with the same customers over and over instead of always finding a new customer. So then the customer becomes an expert in what they want out of the device. And I think with prostheses, it's hard because e-NABLE targets kids. A lot of times it's one of the first devices the kid has used. Someone who's lived in a prostheses for a couple decades has a totally different opinion about what features they want and can be very direct about it. And I think it's a little sad when we build something for someone in the class and they get a lot of attention for a couple months and that's it. And I think coming back again and again and really getting like a deep iterative feedback loop that's more than a couple cycles, you get a fundamentally different outcome.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we keep all of our, it's more than a capstone. So we keep working until we fully deliver. And it's always interesting how people's opinions and things change once they actually start playing around with the designs and solutions we have.
I think,
yeah.
Yeah.
I always like to tell my students, it's like sometimes people don't know what they want. So like, it's kind of like, I don't know what I want to eat for dinner until I see pictures of all the food options. And then I'm like, oh, I want this. Yep. So like a lot of the partners we work with, you have to start showing them things, mini prototypes, those type of things before they can help you identify the true problem.
I love this. I know GE had a saying a long time ago, like no prototype, no meeting. I'm a strong believer in that. It can be like a loose prototype to react to.
Oh, that's a good saying. I like that. Interesting.
So we're just about at time. Christopher, hopefully this gave you some stuff to think about resource-wise too. I put my email in
It
here. I'll
did.
put it again so at the top. And I'm happy to meet on any of this stuff. And I think the other thing that our group, this has opened a wedge for is like open educational resources broadly. And how like we can use technology education as a way to broaden people's perspective. Like everything is industrial design, a human built a lot of our world today. You're a human too. You can affect your built reality in exciting ways. So we'll be back in another month to have another new member education meeting. And a lot of this is just like finding those first resources. I think of it edge finding, to finding the edges of the space, and it really connects to a lot. But in the meantime, if anyone ever wants to geek out, we could do virtual tours. We could talk through projects, or if you have a team that gets stuck, we could try to unstuck you. And I'm happy to network with, if we don't know how to do it, maybe we know someone who does.
Perfect. I'll definitely be reaching out.
Yes, me too. Our team definitely sometimes gets stuck and has questions, so I will definitely able you.
And the other thing on, I'm best on email, but on the hub, there are actual medical professionals who have a totally different perspective to this. There are people who are more mechanical engineers who have a totally different perspective to this. I think I'm like the makerspace focused perspective, which is a little narrow, but there's a lot of diversity of talent on the hub.
Yeah, we've also talked to a few people on the hub, and they've also been very helpful.
Well, awesome. I can't wait to hear. Maybe it would be really cool if you came back at the end of the semester. If any of the teams were willing to share the outcomes and what they developed, we'd love to hear your stories in this meeting.
Yeah, that would be great.
Cool. I can't wait to see what everyone makes. And hopefully we can touch base again in the future. And bring your friends and cohorts to these meetings. We can always use more people.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I have 2 teams. I think they're each 8 students. So each of them are
Cool.
representing one person from their team. So we'll bring quite a few.
Excellent.
And then can hopefully grow our ASU hub. So, any guidance that people have for their hubs would be great.
Cool.
Nicely, ours will be built within a class. So that should have,
Yeah.
good accountability.
Yep.
But
Yeah, that's the key. I think the biggest limitation with all this is it's mostly done by students.
yeah.
And the students' most valuable resource is their time.
And then they graduate and then things get lost, which I'm sure happens all the time.
Cool. So we're at time. I think we're gonna wrap up. But yeah, let's not let that not be the end of the conversation. And good luck with all your prototyping.
Great. Thank you so much for all the help. We'll be in touch.
Talk soon. Thanks,
Thanks.
Sarah.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
thank you.